Welcome, welcome. I'm going to give it about another 90 seconds. Let everybody herd in here. And as many of you have attended these in the past, I want to make sure you can hear me and see the screen. So if you guys wouldn't mind, if you could raise your hands if you can hear me and see the screen. So all good. Thank you. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Good. I guess I'd give it another 60 seconds or so. All right, I know a number of people will still be joining as we go through, but I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I am Brian Klontz with Charitable Solutions. I have two of my colleagues today, John Severson and Paul Kasperson on the phone. They head our lead really two areas, primarily in the National Gift Annuity Foundation area. And then Paul also helps with, and John does too, charitable remainder trusts and some other real estate gifts in particular. But today, as you can see, we're talking about creative, non-spooky. We should put non-spooky in there since we're doing this on Halloween. Year-end charitable gift annuity marketing ideas. For those of you who have attended any of the past webinars, we try our best to make these informative, obviously, but sort of timely. And so we've been getting a lot of these questions about, gift annuity rates are coming up, interest rates are coming up, the QCD changes this year. So what can we do to either reinvigorate a gift annuity program or partner with an outside group for gift annuities and so on? So thought this might be very timely here as we are going into the last 60 days of the year to be able to share some of these ideas with you too. So with that, if you want to go to the next slide, our typical, hopefully 5-minute or less blurb on the other services that we offer. And so our mission for the last 20 years has been to help make charitable gifts happen that otherwise wouldn't. We do this sort of on the top right in the emergency assistance fund space. So I created a charity called the Emergency Assistance Foundation. You can sort of read about that. I work with a lot of community foundations and other charities as an outsourced provider in that space. Professional advisor CE, that has definitely come back in a big way in person. I know Paul's running all around the country, and John's doing a bunch of these too, and everybody wants to have these in person now, which is great until you're missing your flights for like the third time. But when I'm there, I love it. Anyway, so do a lot of professional advisor CE, board staff, nonprofit speeches, and so doing 2 to 3 of those a week right now. Then charitable appraisals, so an area really just launched about 2 years ago, really in more of a holistic approach. I've been doing virtual currency and life insurance appraisals for a long time, but really added all the business interest and all these other assets. It's by far growing the fastest percentage-wise, still pretty small. But we have a team of 5 people now, and our tagline there is if you can give it to charity or to a charitable remainder trust or anything else, we can appraise it. So only do charitable qualified appraisals in that space. Gift annuity risk management, that's coming up more and more now. So we're doing actuarial risk assessments, maybe a couple of those a month or so, usually on very large pools, or where a very large gift annuity is coming in to a relatively small pool. So risk management for very large ones, look at reinsurance where that sort of makes sense, and design and so forth. National Gift Annuity Foundation, I'm not going to talk about at all, since we are going to be talking about that, John, in particular today, about how our partnership with charities works. And non-cash asset risk management. So that's probably half to 60% of what we do. And the key point there is if a charity otherwise declines a gift, what we always say is a good donor with a good asset wanting to do good things, don't say no. We and others are able to process these types of gifts, primarily business interest, real estate, lots of other ones. We have a little slide that we go through about what we did last year, and I can give you a quick update. Just prepared this for our board next week for where we are year to date this year. But the bottom line is we only take in illiquid or complex gifts. and we never manage them once they're liquid. So 30 days after liquidity, it's going out to the charity or charities that the donor was trying to give to in the first place, including other donor advised funds. So that of our 27-person team, probably 18 are working just in that space. We do about one per day. So on that, I guess we'll just sort of jump right into the slide here. So this was our 2022 activity. Interestingly, it was down about half of what it was the prior year. So we were just under 1.2 billion in 2021. Weirdly, it went down in half, but was still the second biggest year in our 20 years by 50%. That's odd to say. That's how crazy 2021 was. This year is quite good. We're right at about 450 million year to date. And we most always will double that in the last 60 days. So whatever we've done in the first part, I think we've done 92 gifts. So very interestingly, the trend here is a smaller number, but a much larger amount. So I think we're around 6 to 6.5 million is the average, at least year to date. In the prior 2 years, it was about 4.5 million. And again, we do roughly one per day. It was 261 we did the year before, 154. Again, we're around 90, 92 right now. So we'll see how that goes. Strangely consistent. We're about 90% of the gifts that we do, 85 to 90% are business interests. And you can see all the number there sort of deconstructed. We are now doing super strange, based on 2021 990 data, more real estate than any other charity nationally. So of the 1.5 million charities, we do more than all of them. We don't do that many, you can see they're 50 to 80 or so a year. I think we're well ahead of that this year so far. And then cryptocurrency was dead last year. I think we did a $3 million one last week. So that's definitely coming back as crypto is coming back as well. And you can see we do very, very little cash. Usually these are capital calls or direct investment type gifts that we have. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Paul and John to sort of take us the rest of the way. So Paul will take us through the agenda, and just appreciate everybody being here today. Anything we can do. Quick little note, housekeeping. One, we do not provide all the slides after. However, we do provide a full free recording that includes the slides, as you know. I think this is our 38th or 40th. I don't know. It's something like that, 3 dozen or so. And those are all free, all linked on the Charitable Solutions website under resources and webinars. So this will be also uploaded next week. Also, if you wouldn't mind including your questions in the Q&A box, it is much easier for us to scrape those post-webinar than the chat box. So if you can put any questions in the Q&A, I'll be responding to those. And we'll take the Q&A from last week, which evidently I heard there was a ton of really good questions. So there's the bar. We just set the bar for you guys. And then we'll sort of mush them. And then so next week, you'll get a free link and all the Q&A from both sessions. So with that again, Paul, please take us away.
Thank you, Brian. And I would just echo what Brian said, that we're glad that you joined us today. So welcome. Our primary topic is on creative year-end charitable gift annuity marketing ideas. And today we're going to cover a wide range of topics related to CGA marketing that we hope that you'll find insightful. We use the term year-end because, as Brian mentioned, we're heading into November. But I think you'll find that most of what we cover today is relevant for any time of the year, although we'll talk about a couple of specific year-end tactics. So as you can see with our agenda here, I wanted to start out with some trends, both from the National Gift Annuity Foundation and from the American Council of Gift Annuities. And these trends, I think, are very important. I think hopefully you'll find them insightful. And these are very important as you start to imagine what your target audience or audiences, plural, is for gift annuities. And if you do have plural audiences, how do you segment your marketing and messaging to these different groups? We'll explore that. If you don't have a significant print budget, we're going to talk about just some budget-friendly marketing ideas for gift annuities. We're going to kind of round it out by talking about the importance of donor stories specific to CGAs, especially unique stories. I'll give you a couple of examples of that. And then John will kind of spend the last third of our session talking about partnering with the National Gift Annuity Foundation, whether you have a robust pool or whether you don't have a pool at all. We work with organizations of all sizes and make them better. So with that, let's talk about the CGA trends at the National Gift Annuity Foundation, which I think most of you on the call know. NGAF is a supporting org to the Decami Foundation, what Brian founded over 20 years ago. One of the largest charities now in the United States by gift volume. And this is what we had through September. Just a couple of things stand out you may be interested in knowing. First of all, in 2022, we had 81 total gifts. Well, let me back up even further. In 2021, we had 108 new gift annuity contracts that year. And so in 22, despite 2 rate increases by the ACGA, our volume of gifts were lower in 22, only 81 last year. But maybe no one is surprised because of some economic headwind as a result of that. This year is a different story. We're on pace. We'll probably have our best year in terms of the volume of gift annuities. But if you'll remember one thing from this slide, you'll see that 1/3 of our contracts this year have been legacy IRAs. Had we not had that, we may be in the same position that we were in 22. That it may be a stretch to get to 80 or 85 contracts by the end of the year. So this has been a really important new opportunity for us. You'll also see that we have done several real estate gift annuities this year. And I've been fortunate to be a part of that. And we did one very significant, again, in partnership with a well-known national organization. We did the Holy Grail of planned gifts. I used to think that was a non-grantor charitable lead annuity trust, but now I've learned that the Holy Grail is a retained life estate and using the present value of that remainder interest value to establish a charitable gift annuity contract. This was for an extremely valuable piece of real estate. It's a residence in Southern California. And for an older donor, and it worked out great. So that's essentially what our gift annuity pool has been like this year at NGAF. I found this from some of my old Conrad Teitel training material. This is what Conrad Teitel has to say about CGAs. And if you could bottle up this message, it really helps to convey the positive attributes of a CGA. This message on the surface looks like it's comparing commercial annuities to CGAs. But if you really read it, part of the point here is to educate skeptical donors about the word annuity itself, which in our society, the word annuity has a negative connotation for many. I'll talk more about that in a couple slides. I saw an email also a couple weeks ago from PG Calc, and I bet many of you got the same email that said some data shows that 50% of gift annuities come from donors who already gave one. But here's the thing. How do you get a donor to cross that chasm for the first time? That is the essence of what CGA marketing really is. It's wonderful to get repeat CGA donors. But the mass marketing isn't primarily for the donors who have already established a CGA with your organization or even with another organization. It's really to educate and inspire and motivate those who have never done it and take the first step to do so. For donors who have already set up CGAs, that marketing is more of a hands-on, more personalized approach. And we'll walk through a couple of examples of how to do that as well today. So data from the American Council of Gift Annuities. So as we aim to identify your target audience, let's look at some data from the ACGA. Now, the prototypical gift annuity donor is age 78 or older. The ACGA survey has reported consistently that the average annuitant at the first annuity has hovered in that range, age 77 to 79. And that's been the same since the 1990s that they've been doing this survey. Another very important point, 70% of the contracts reported are single life. So keep these statistics in the back of your mind as we start to kind of delve further into target audiences. So now that doesn't mean that you can't broaden your target audiences as it relates to CGAs. It really means that they're segmented, and therefore your messaging for each of the audiences should be segmented. And I would submit that you'll most likely, as an organization, you probably have 3, maybe 4, if you count splitting the baby boom generation into 2, because there's such a mega audience. And I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about more about them in the next slide or two. But identifying your target audience is crucial for the success of your CGA marketing. And as you can see, it starts with the silent generation, those born before 1946, before the baby boomers. And so clearly this audience is now 80 plus. And so pure, messaging around immediate gift annuities is perfect for this audience. Baby boomers are a little different. I'll come back to them in the next slide or two here. And then, although I'm in denial because I'm one of them, Generation X is becoming another audience, kind of your tertiary audience, particularly for flexible deferred and for deferred gift annuities. If you think about it, this generation was born between 1965 and 1980. So I was born right in the middle. And so there's more than half of the Generation X is now well into their 50s. And so messaging around being prepared for retirement, building reliable income for retirement, these are all things that you can start to socialize with this group that are going to be in their peak income years and interested in possibly building retirement, income for the future. So let's go a little bit further into this baby boom generation. Now, this chart is broken down by birth year. Again, this generation born 1946 to 1964. So remember the ACGA statistic that the average annuitant is age 78. Here's the amazing and exciting thing. And we've been waiting for this for a very long time. The oldest baby boomers are now reaching that age of what the longtime ACGA statistics have said is your average age for a new annuitant, for a new donor for an immediate CGA. And furthermore, we're almost to the halfway point in the baby boom generation. We will cross that in the next 3 or 4 years of those who are over the age of 70 and a half. And why is that number significant? Obviously, for philanthropy, it's significant if you're thinking about any type of qualified charitable distribution. But what's exciting is that in that 30 plus legacy IRA CGAs that we've already set up, many of them, and John can talk to this as well, many of them are age 70 and a half. They don't even have to take an RMD yet, but they are intrigued by this legacy IRA, and they are setting up an immediate CGA much earlier than what the longtime ACGA statistics are telling us. So really, anyone above that dotted line is a good candidate now for immediate annuity messaging, particularly the legacy IRA is what you really want to focus on with this demographic. So I was invited in March of, I think it was April of 2020, actually, to speak at the American Council of Gift Annuities. And Joe Bull, who was organizing it for that year, said, I want your topic to be the top 10 plan giving strategies for baby boomers. And so I really embraced that. In fact, I did a lot of research on this. I published a paper on it in Trust and Estates. And one of the takeaways that I got from this research is that sociologists and all these researchers who have overstudied the baby boom generation really believe that there's 2 different subcategories of baby boomers. Those who are older, or you call them the early boomers, born 46 to 54, and then the younger boomers, Generation Jones, born between 1955 to 64. So I'm not going to go into all of the differences and psychographics that make them different in their buying habits and their approach to investing and philanthropy. But I will just simply say that if you just divided the line right down the middle, your audience on the left, again, is really that audience for immediate annuities, particularly the legacy IRA. And the audience on the right-hand side is an ideal audience for flexible deferred and just simply deferred gift annuities, because again, they're in their peak income years. They are interested in building a reliable income for the future, and they're also interested in being philanthropic. Now, one of the things that that we've known for a while is that this word annuity produces a lot of negative connotations. And Professor Wade Pfau, if you ever get a chance to read some of his work, he's at the American College of Financial Services. He's kind of like the Russell James of retirement income planning. And he's a strong champion of both immediate annuities and deferred gift annuities, not necessarily charitable gift annuities, but in annuities that will build some type of reliable income for a household. And one of the reasons he champions this is because he studied something called a sequence of return risk, which I won't go into detail on, only to say that if you compared two households who have the same wealth and they retire at the same age, and one of them retires during kind of normal economic times, and one of them retires right before a significant pullback in the stock market and in the economy, that household is at significant risk of running out of assets. And one of the only ways to counter that for this type of household is to develop a portfolio of immediate and deferred annuities. And you could substitute that with charitable gift annuities. So as Wade says, when you frame an annuity as a replacement for a traditional pension, or you mention how Social Security is actually an annuity, people tend to value its characteristics more. And research that Dr. James has produced kind of validates the same thing. So I wanted to share with you quickly 3 Dr. Russell James statistics about CGA marketing and communication. And Russell, if you're out there listening, thank you for sending me this data. And he would clearly explain this more eloquently, but I'll share with you my understandings of some of his work around this. So in the first paper that I read, Russell cites an experiment and compares the industry standard term, charitable gift annuity, as compared to one less common one, which is just simply life income gifts. And using the word charitable gift annuities in his focus groups and in his studies, generated the lowest level of interest of any of those 3 terms tested. And you can see the terms here. One is just simply charitable gift annuities. And that has the lowest amount of people that were interested in more, right? As you can see it there. And then I've circled gifts that pay you income, which was the highest. And believe it or not, that actually was a little bit higher than gifts that pay you income for life. But in any case, those words, in substituting them with the word charitable gift annuity, resonated significantly in the marketing. To delve even further into that, Russell sent me another paper, and it builds off of that. It discusses, again, the repercussions of using technical jargon versus what actually gets results. And so in this study, they used 3 different phrases to describe CGAs. And the first one that he described actually came from one of the well-known CGA marketing vendors. And so how it went was, it was like a postcard that said, make a gift. And then on the back side of it, it would have the final part of that message. So in this case, the results that you're looking at is row number 7 there. But it says, make a gift and enter into a contract with a charity where you transfer cash or property. And that actually came from a marketing vendor. And that had the lowest response of the 3 that were compared here. Number 2, which is row number 6, says, make a gift. And then the rest of it says, in exchange, receive a guaranteed income from the charity and a tax deduction. Okay, so that had a little bit more of a positive response that you can see both in column 1 and in column 7 there. And then finally, row number 5, which actually had the highest results, started with the benefit of receiving a tax deduction first. So the message said, receive a tax deduction. And then on the backside of the postcard or whatever it was, it said, and make a gift that pays you income for life. Did not use the words charitable gift annuity at all. Okay, final insight from Russell, and then we'll keep moving on here. His research also from a different study confirms the importance of age matching an example donor with the target audience. So that should be intuitive, I think, to all of us. But basically what Russell said in his paper is that if the example donor image can be age matched with the target audience, the image will increase the effectiveness of the message. However, if the example donor image is substantially different in age than the actual target audience, it's preferable to not even use an image at all, like to use a non-donor image, like you see on the bottom right there, or just no image at all, like on the top left up here. So these were 5 different examples, same exact language that Russell used in his insights there. And again, I think that would be probably intuitive to all of us, but sometimes it gets lost on us because I won't mention the vendor, but I pulled this down from a content library just as I was getting prepared for this presentation from a well-known marketing firm in our industry. And if you look at this, I'm sure that there was probably some thought that went into this, but if you look at everything that we've kind of studied up until now, this postcard would break a few rules. For one thing, it has charitable gift annuity right on the front page, right? And it's also talking about locking in, these higher rates. What we learned in my work at the University of Florida, we had a pretty robust pool there, was that the only time whether interest rates would go up or down that would motivate someone to set up a new CGA was if they already actually had one. Okay. The other thing here is that if you look at the age of these donors look like they could be Gen Xers. So again, what did the ACGA said that the average immediate annuity is age 78. 70% of them are single contracts. Okay. So as you take all that into consideration, try to think about, how you might visually prepare an ad like this differently. Now, I pulled this language from one of our clients who works with the National Gift Annuity Foundation, and I really like this language from one of their CGA brochures. Are you retirement ready? Now, that's the type of caption that would maybe appeal to this younger couple, but that's going to have to be language that's more geared, more likely to deferred charitable gift annuities. When I was at University of Florida about 5 years ago, we used this postcard. We got excellent results from it. And again, our youngest, I think, age in this particular mailing, I think it was a 10,000 postcard mailing, was age 73, because we had already had some general ideas about the ACGA stats and our own stats at the University of Florida. And we also, again, kept in mind that the majority of the CGA contracts were actual single life. So on the front of that postcard that had a reply card attached to it and everything, you could see there nothing on the front page or front cover about charitable gift annuities. How does a secure income stream for life sound? As a way to get their attention. And then you eventually have to drop the word annuity at some point, right? But to get to the point of what you're advertising, but you want to start with the features first that are going to resonate with the donors the most. An old colleague of mine at University of Florida worked at Johns Hopkins, and they had a mailer that went out over a decade ago now. And this produced very good results without having to put a donor image on it. And this could appeal to a wide range, as you could see, from age 60 to 90. And I thought that this was very creative. It was like a lottery ticket type of scratch off. So you could scratch off to learn what your rate is, or in this case, how much income that you'd get from a $10,000 gift annuity contract. sample subject lines and article titles. So again, if we don't want to lead with the words charitable gift annuity, what are some of the phrases that we can put in our subject lines or on our postcards or in our newsletter articles that can resonate? So here's just some examples, but again, some for immediate and then some for deferred messaging. Very different audiences, as you know. Budget-friendly marketing. And this is especially important for the silent generation and for the kind of the early baby boomers. You want to keep a running list of individuals who have requested information about CGAs. Maybe they've even requested an illustration, and they just have not pulled the trigger yet. You always want to keep in touch with them and have a reason to check in with them. It could be rate increases, it could be rate decreases, it could be year end, but that's important just to keep that list. The second is to use year-end letters with personalized illustrations. So what we did at University of Florida, and we could have done this for even a larger audience, but we did it just for donors who had already established gift annuities, is that we would partner with PG Calc, and they have a service there called Batch Calcs, where you basically send them a spreadsheet of your donors, their birth dates, and so they will basically do through the magic of mail merge. And I know that they do a little bit more to get it to the level that we need it, but it's a beautifully written letter that talks about gift annuities and what your rate would be right now in this moment in time, and what your income tax deduction would be on, say, $100,000 new gift annuity, or you could say 10,000 or 20,000 or whatever. So I think that's another budget friendly. It's not mass communication, but it's very effective targeted communication at your existing pool. Now, if you want to do mass communication, and again, you don't have the budget to do postcards like what you previously saw, then I would encourage you to partner with your annual giving team. And generally, what you'll see with partnerships with annual giving is you might put something in the annual giving replies like, I've included your organization in my estate plans, which is great. But why not maybe segment off a piece of this to the donors who are, in their 70s, they're close to that ACGA, typical demographic, and have the messaging appeal to gift annuities. So it's an annual gift appeal, but there's just a reference to gift annuities there to pique their interest. It wouldn't cost you anything to add language to your annual giving, and it shouldn't take away anything from the efficacy of the actual annual giving itself. More on year-end giving. We really, in the past, haven't had a lot of year-end urgency to create gift annuities. Again, at my old organization, we would use batch calcs, but we also now have a legitimate reason to send like a postcard or an email or something at the end of the year, which is to now talk about the excitement of this new legacy IRA and this new opportunity, because it's timely, because your donors over 73 have to start their, taking minimum distributions. But of course, this message can start immediately to donors who are age 70 and a half. And so here's just some sample language. You've got the front of the postcard on the top and then the back of the postcard there. And I'm happy to send some of this language to you if you're interested. We also, for our National Gift Annuity Foundation clients, we actually have a widget that you can put on any page on your website. We can send you the iframe code, and all it does is it, again, plants the seed that, hey, we do offer gift annuities. Even if you have a traditional plan giving page and it appears like you issue gift annuity contracts when in fact you maybe don't, or you don't in all 50 states, this is a nice little banner to have so that they can see that your opportunities to partner and offer CGAs in many different ways is right there and available to you. I mentioned the power of donor stories, and this is a quote again from Dr. James, is that when he was looking at that study about making sure that you have the age appropriate image to your age-appropriate target audience. The whole reason for that is people like me do things like this, right? And that's obviously the power of making sure that your stock photos are age appropriate, but also that your donor stories are unique and that they feature charitable gift annuities. And of course, you could just feature donors who have made very simple charitable gift annuities. It would be wonderful if you could feature a donor this year or in 24 who has made a charitable gift annuity, a legacy CGA using their QCD, their 50,000 to do that. But also there's some other creative ideas too. If you work with a donor who funds a CGA with real estate, if your gift acceptance policy doesn't allow for that, we're a good partner to come and talk to about that. Or if you have a donor who has established CGAs for other loved ones, that really illuminates yet another creative way for a donor who doesn't need the income from a CGA to do it for somebody else. I had a donor story many years ago at Iowa State where the donor, she was very wealthy widow, and she established CGAs both for her housekeeper and for her driver. And we did a donor story on that, really just to kind of, again, open up the ideas for people that if you're extremely affluent, you're still a candidate definitely for gift annuities. It just may be for other annuitants. And of course, you always want to demonstrate the impact. We always say, and John will say this too, charitable gift annuities are philanthropic tools first, but they are a financial planning tool second. And we can't ignore that, but we want to demonstrate the impact that charitable gift annuities will have. In fact, John even has a creative idea where a charitable gift annuity can actually literally have an immediate impact right out of the gate. So with that, John, if you're ready, I'm going to turn it over to you and talk about partnering with NGAF.
Very good, Paul. Well, great job of getting this set up. So it's wonderful to talk about how gift annuities work and how to market, but if you can't implement them, it doesn't do your organization any good. So National Gift Annuity Foundation was formed to provide an outsourced implementation device so that anybody could do a gift annuity without having to create your own program internally or to supplement an internal program where licensing in various states is problematic. So we're going to just jump into this, Paul. Go ahead. I wrote this article at the beginning of the year called Triple Play for the CGA. I'm not much of a writer and I'm not very creative, but it seemed to me that three things happened on January 1st that impacted CGAs positively. First of all, the ACGA had new rates that went into effect January 1. So we got a little chart here that shows the increase from the old rates to the new rates effective January 1. That gets people's attention, especially for the 90+ crowd. So I have a 9.7% rate now. So just did one last week for a 97-year-old. Next, number two is also that kind of happened along the way is the IRS continues to increase that Section 7520 rate used to calculate the present value of the future major interest going to charity from a CGA, which is that goes into that tax deduction calculation. So as interest rates in the economy have gone up, so have the Section 7520 rates. And, you know, in January of 2022, that rate was 1.6%. In January of 23, it was 4.6. Guess what it is for November? 5.6. And the higher the rate, the larger the charitable deduction. So that gets people's attention. Next. And number three, the new legacy IRA is here, which is a poor name, but that's what the writers of the legislation called it. It's really, in my view, a QCD, a qualified charitable distribution from an IRA funding a charitable gift annuity. But the Secure Act 2.0, we got this snuck in after years and years and years of lobbying. We asked for $400,000 a year as the amount that you could transfer from an IRA to a CGA. The Congress gave us $50,000 once in a lifetime, but it's a start. And what we're finding is it's a door opener for development officers to start talking about plan gifts for people that weren't even thinking about plan giving. They're thinking about retirement. So whether you end up with a QCD CGA or not, you might end up with a a will bequest, a charitable trust is something much greater than the $50,000 CGA. So it's been wonderful. In fact, so far this year, through the end of September, we've had 95 new CGA contracts. A third of those were QCD funded IRAs, more than we ever anticipated. So the activity is out there. The advisors to the donors are recommending that they talk to their charity, but can you do this? And we want you to be able to say yes instead of no. Next. As Paul mentioned, another idea here for marketing gift annuities that worked well, if you're in a campaign of some kind where you're asking for multiple year pledges, and the new impact annuity, which is just a name given to this concept by our friends at the University of Pennsylvania, who said we could use it. Basically, you've got a donor that you're calling upon for maybe a 3-year pledge. And let's say her name is Mildred, and she's 75 years old, and she'd like to give $10,000 over a 3-year period, about $3,300 a year, but she's just a little unsure of her cash flow. And all older adults are uncertain of cash flow. The 3 most important things to an older adult, me being one, is income, income, and income. All right. So she's just a little uncertain. So you ask Mildred, are you sitting on a CD at your bank or your credit union for a 2-3% interest? Yep, and it's fully taxable. It's not very good. Well, you're age 75. If you start a gift annuity to favor our organization today, you're going to get a 6.6% payout rate on that. On a $50,000 contribution, that's $3,300 a year. You can redirect that $3,300 a year payment right back to the charity in satisfaction of your pledge to the campaign. Wow, we just found a way to help Mildred satisfy her campaign's pledge desires and create a planned gift. And guess what? She gets a $24,000 upfront income tax deduction, which she was not expecting. And she gets to deduct the $3,300 a year going into the back to the charity. So this is a really interesting concept that we're so pleased that the University of Pennsylvania shared with us, because it is helping get across the chasm of broaching the subject of annual gift, campaign gift to plan gift. Boom, covers all 3. Next. So if you want to partner with National Gift Annuity Foundation for a single CGA, or you want to do 1,000, if you're currently a larger university that does CGAs in all but maybe 6 problem states, we can help you. If you don't have a CGA program at all, we can help you, because we have an outsourced package program wherein the National Gift Annuity Foundation is the issuing charity. And so how this works, the donor passes their assets, cash or marketable securities, or illiquid assets, as we can process those through our Decamai Foundation. They pass that to the National Gift Annuity Foundation. We give them the receipt. And then we pay them the income for the rest of their life based on ACG rates, and offer them the deduction and so on, because we're the 501c3 that receipted that gift. So we do all that internal work, all that administrative work, all the regulatory work, no matter what state the donor lives in. We're registered in all 50 states. But in the CGA contract, which is between a charity and a donor, in our case, we add a third party to the contract, which is simply naming your charity as the beneficiary. By being named as the beneficiary, you're guaranteed you're going to get the remainder interest of the CGA contract that the donor is passing. But guess what? You're not in the chain of title. You don't have any legal liability or obligation. Your CFO will love this. CFOs hate gift annuities. They don't like future liabilities that they don't know how much it'll be, because they don't know how many of our annuitants are going to live to be 110. They hate these things. They love this program because now all they have to do is cash the check when the donor passes away, and we send 100% of the residual value to the charity named in the CGA contract. It's that simple. It's really cool. It's really easy. Next. So so right now, at the end of last year, we update this about an annual basis. We had 56 million in our CGA pool. It makes it the largest independent pool in the country. At that time, we had over 710 contracts in place, CGA contracts. Now there's over 800. Our minimum age for payout is age 55, which can even affect some of those brand X or Generation X, whatever Paul talks about there. Our minimum contribution amount is $20,000. It's not 10, it's not 50, it's 20. And we're registered in all 50 states. And for those of you that are national charities that have donors all over the country, this is a wonderful thing because we've got a full-time person that does nothing but administer our CGAs and do state registrations, which is a half-time job by itself. So that takes a lot of hassle off of your finance and your administration department. Our only fee that we charge to do this comes out of the CGA contract itself. We take 1% annually for the money management, 1% for the admin and the state compliance. And so we never send you a bill for it. It does not affect the donor's income one iota. We take 100% of their contribution and multiply it times the ACGA rate. That is their income rate, the same as they get from any other charity. So it's kind of like a mutual fund manager that takes their income out of the asset itself. So the type of annuities that we're able to write for you, immediate is very popular, deferred and flex deferred, of course, but we can do the new impact annuities. We can do the testamentary CGAs, which we're getting inquiries from the state attorneys now saying, our widowed client is sitting on $6 million of IRA money, and she's 80 years old, and she wants to make sure if she passes away and leaves this to her kids and grandkids, that they don't get stuck with that Secure Act 1.0 from 2019 that no longer allows the recipient at the death of an IRA holder to then spread the income payments out over their lifetime and pay tax on it annually. They now have to confine it to a 10-year period at a time when they might be in a higher tax bracket. So we got testamentary CGAs that we can put together at no charge, and they sit on the shelf until the donor passes away, and boom, then it goes right into the IRA, goes directly from the IRA custodian into the CGA for the children, the grandchildren, the nieces and nephews, so they can spread that out over their lifetime. And so no one can take it away from them, by the way, and they can't buy a sailboat, they can't buy a motorhome, that's a good thing. And then your charity is still named as the remainder beneficiary when that second generation passes away. And of course, the hot topic of this year has been the new legacy IRA, the QCD funded CGA, which Paul has been talking about. It's got created a lot more interest than we anticipated, largely generated by the donors' advisors. They're telling them, you go search this out. You could do that. You got too much in your IRA now. If we can help draw down some of that on a tax-free rollover so that your RMDs aren't quite as large going in the future, well, that'll work. We'll also, of course, to fund a gift annuity, take cash and publicly traded securities and mutual funds like any charity would that issues gift annuities. But because of our relationship with our parent, the Economical Foundation that Brian established 20 years ago, guess what? We can fund a CGA with real estate, commercial real estate. We can fund it with S Corp stock, C Corp stock, privately held stock that most charities don't want to take. We can even fund it with tangibles. Last year, I funded a Midwest farmer who was 80 years old, funded a $275,000 CGA with 45,000 bushels of #2 yellow corn. And he had a problem. The corn was sitting in the bin from the prior year. When he sold it, it was going to be all taxed as ordinary income with no offsetting deductions because he wasn't going to plant another crop. So he thought, man, this is a great deal for me. And he wanted to leave a nice planned gift for his charity anyway. He was talking to another national charity about doing this. It took them 9 months to come up with the answer, no, we can't do it. We got it done at NGF in 2 weeks. So you can think outside the box because we are able to take illiquid assets to even fund a CGA or a CRT. Next.
That brings us to Q&A.
Oh,
and
man, we got lots of time. We can just
yeah,
take a ball.
If Brian can come back in, I'd like to get some of Brian's insights or maybe answer some questions. But John, I was just going to ask you too, on the legacy IRAs, is it fair to say, because this has been my experience this year, that a lot of these folks who are setting up legacy IRAs are really just turning 70 and a half. These are not people that are at that ACGA average of 78 or 79. These are younger folks.
Yeah. And that's because their advisors say, you don't qualify for this, go talk to your charity about it. It's not, they're not coming up with it on their own, although we've seen numerous Wall Street Journal articles. We've seen Kiplinger magazine writing about it, Forbes, etc. Brian even writes an article once in a while and tells people about this. So the public's getting educated and they have an interest in it that they would not normally have. That's
great. Brian, I just wondered what your thoughts have been along the way, as we talked about, some of both the ACGA stats that we know, have been pretty well time documented that the average, immediate annuity is starts at age 78. And then you see what obviously what our NGAF stats are. Is there anything else that you would add to that just in your own experiences, working with the ACGA or all the research that you've done, with CGAs over the years?
Yeah, I appreciate that. There are a couple things. So one, I guess back to the RMD, this is a joke, but it's not a joke. The most upset, angry people I've ever seen in my entire life are those seniors that you have to say you're required to take a minimum distribution. I mean, there's just nothing angrier than that. That's more true than not.
Yes.
And to the extent that they have any kind of charitable inclination, and this is horrible, or they just hate paying taxes immediately, that becomes an interesting and easy conversation starter. So I think there's an attitude, understandably, of, well, I'm not going to pay tax now. I want to defer that, and if I can combine it with some of my charitable interests, this is sort of a dunk. The 50,000 one and done is painful, but it is a start. And we didn't have it on December 31st of last year. We had it as of January 1st, and perhaps there are 32 gifts at least that we've received that would not otherwise have happened. So I think it's definitely a good start. One thing I do want to call out fairly briefly, but I've been on the ACGA research committee, I think since 2000, 2001. And one of the first research, I can't remember what it is, the sesquicentennial, whatever the every 5 years is, research study that we do is that the average, it was still 78. So Paul's nailed that. It was 77 and moved to 78. So it's just right there. It's weirdly consistent over a 30-year period. However, the average on the first one that I worked on was 34,000. I remember it was a big deal when it hit 47,000. And now, as Paul cited very correctly, it's up to 98,000. We ought to do the data. I should know this, but for at least NGAF, I'll bet a lot it's probably in that 110, 130 sort of range. And so that calls out a couple things. One, I say this with love, but there is, I think, almost an obsession, weird one, about, let's do a $5,000 minimum or $10,000 minimum. The market has moved from that. The market on average is 10 times 10,000. And in my view, I would say in our view, 10,000 is way too low to be doing these, way too low, all things being equal, which they're not. If you're getting major gifts out of it, you're getting big, gifts through wills out of it. I get it. It's a loss leader. But most of the charities still have a $10,000 minimum because they look at the ACGA research report and it says, well, most charities have that, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's what happens. What do most charities do? 10,000. Well, most charities set these up in the mid to late 80s or early 90s when 10,000 was more than 20,000 today from a purchasing power standpoint. So I think that's important. And the final point I would make is we are seeing mega jumbos that are going into CGAs that otherwise would have been CRATs every single year, 100% of the time, pre-2008, 2009, 100% of the time. So we work with one charity, did a $52 million gift annuity for S Corp. That's not going in a CRT, went to a CGA. We are just seeing huge gift annuities, what John teased out, which is perfect for, in essence, I hate to say poor man, we'll call it simplified spendthrift trust goals. I want to leave my child or some heir a fixed amount. It doesn't go up. That's not good. No purchasing power protection. That's not good. But I don't want to give them the lump sum. I love them, but I don't want to give them the lump sum. But I also don't want to create a whole separate trust and a trustee and an administrator. And you want to have fun, you be a trust administrator from, let's just say maybe a child or heir that's got some issues financially or addictions or who knows what. And it's every week, I want more money out, or this is an emergency. I mean, you get into that not enjoyable process. Long story short, it meets the more technical stretch IRA that John was alluding to, that we've seen a couple gigantic, work with the Community Foundation, $28 million, testamentary CGA, split it between his two daughters. You think they were young. I think one was like 68, one was 72. This was a billionaire person. But he said, if one of my daughters passes away, God forbid early, all of that residuum pours into the family donor advised fund at the community foundation, doing all that great work that Conrad Teitel sort of mentioned. But also it makes it easy for the daughter. She's just getting this automatic direct deposit every quarter and she's happy. So we're seeing gift annuities moving into the CRAT lane and they can't exhaust. And so many of these CRATs have exhausted that when I got in the business about the same time as Paul and John long ago, it was like a law. It was like a law. If it's over $500,000 and they want a fixed payment with a life income gift for charity, you do a CRAT. I mean, that's what you do. That's a law. And then all these CRATs start popping because of sequence of return risk. You take that as an early donation with that fixed payout on the original funding, and God forbid that goes down in early years, it's never coming back. So that's a lot more than you wanted, Paul. But I think those are the big three themes I've seen the last 5 or 10 years. Is this RMD for QCDs and this year alone, but a lot more using this for more illiquid and larger gifts, primarily either outright during life for a retirement income flooring. Super quick story, had a guy in Sarasota, did one, I think it was 7 million. And I know that would have been a CRAT before. And I'll never forget what he said. He goes, I know that I'm going to die first. So 72% of the time, the surviving spouse is a female. And he said, this was in 2012. And he said, and this was the quote, he said, I don't want to put my wife in this situation where she may be half lucid in an assisted living center in a rocking chair with CNBC blaring in the background, worried about who the next Lehman Brothers is going to be. That was a quote. So it was kind of like this impact annuity where the university was asking for a huge gift as part of their campaign. And he goes, can't do it. I want to do a retirement flooring. And at that 7 million, it was paying out like 5% or something, about 360,000 a year. And he said, we're getting 30,000 a month. If 2008 and 2009 happen again and just obliterate everything, we're getting 30,000 a month. When I pass away, she's getting 30,000 a month. Whatever's left over all goes to the university as part of the capital campaign. But I am nailing my retirement flooring for me and my wife. And now she gets a 1099-R and a direct deposit. She's not worried about who the trustee is. She's not worried about the investment allocation. She's not getting K1s. He's like, ugh, I want to do one donation, guaranteed, backed by all the assets to cover her. So that's long-winded, but that kind of thinking was not happening prior to 2008. And that's, in my view, why the ACGA keeps showing every year, we do this every 5 years, when we do the extra research, it's becoming a larger and larger average. And I think it's because people are going, why would you do a CRAT? Because when that exhausts, that exhausts. And now she's sitting in the rocking chair and the direct deposit stops. And a lot of attorneys now are looking to these as our financial advisors because of QCD and going, now, what are these things again? Wow, a lot of these features are very powerful. Where for most professions, I think it's important for everybody to know, I'm a CFP, Paul's got a master's degree, John's an AEP, all these professions. It might be 3 sentences on gift annuities through all these professional, maybe. CPAs like, what are these again? Attorneys like, what are these again? But they've been around since 1860. So this, to me, is a huge rebirth of gift annuities and how they work. And people are going, wow, these are really cool vehicles. They've been around since 1860. But this is helping people realize the role that they can play around these guaranteed income and the simplicity.
That's excellent, Brian.
Where do I sign up?
Yeah. I think, and so much of Dr. James's work focuses on the importance of non-cash gifts. And we, a lot of times in our industry overlook the fact that CGAs can be funded with non-cash gifts because maybe our gift acceptance policy doesn't allow for it. So think about the size of the assets that are out there that are non-cash assets, real estate, closely held businesses, partnerships. And, just keep those in mind when the donor has liquidity event. It's not, yes, it would be wonderful to get an outright gift during that time, but if the donor is more amenable to, a life income, and maybe a CRT won't work even if you want it to, like in Brian's example of a sub S, that you would instead look at a gift annuity. So I would just kind of leave the audience with keeping that in mind as well.
Yeah. One question that came out, I've just answered one. I think we got exactly 1 minute left, so I'll pitch it to whoever wants. But about multicultural donors, are there any particular tips about marketing? I mean, I guess I'm a horrible marketer, but I would think that, to your point, are people that look like me doing things like this sort of model that you would have if you're using pictures or some kind of market segmentation, if you're able, to know at some level, obviously sort of matching the story to that particular community. But Paul, anything else, or John, that you can think of relative to multicultural donors? And it still seems to be, I think it's like 75%, 70% are single life, as you mentioned. And I think of that, it's still about roughly 70 to 80%, because other survivors are female. So sort of if you default to the default, it's a single and it's a female. So even when you're thinking about that, but that's not multicultural per se, but.
Well, I don't know that anyone knows the real results of what that, audience, how they would respond. But I would say if you can incorporate that in the multicultural consideration, that would be great, but stay disciplined. Look at the history. What does the history tell us? Go with, what the ACGA rates, what are their stats been telling us since the 90s? That's the audience I would focus on.
Yeah, I agree. Well, with that, I think we're exactly, we're actually 30 seconds over. Great job, Paul and John, as always. I really appreciate everybody's time joining. Again, we'll be sending out the link for this one and the Q&A compiled with last week too. And I hope too, when you see that link, not only for this particular one, but if you like these kinds of sessions, I do think it's like 36 or 38 that we've now done. There they are. Oh my gosh. I don't know that we actually have them all on there. It's starting to get a little bit crowded, which is good. So these are all the ones we did. And there was a question in the box about the marketing QCDs, and you can see they're the January 2023 Santa Delivers Secure 2.0. So we actually go very deeply into that particular topic. But you can see all the different ones that we've done. If there are any topics that you are curious about, definitely let us know. We did the one last month on Delaware statutory trust, because it just seemed to be coming up in a weird way the prior 30 days. We're like, all right, let's do a talk on it. So definitely always reach out. But if we can help with NGAF in particular, reach out to Paul or John. That's what we do. And so the cool thing is, of the 800 contracts we have, it's roughly 350 charities have referred those in. We require no contracts with any charities. So again, we're hired based on a referral, fired if you don't refer. Hopefully is the American way generally. But if we can help anyway, let us know. But hope this is helpful. Again, Paul and John, thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Bye now.